right, the Civil War, the Civil Rights Trail, we've got it all for you today. And joining us to tell you about it and how it relates to LiDAR, if you've heard of that or not, it's truly an amazing little bit of technology they have out there today. And joining us, we've got Dr. Joyner, Dr. Gary Joyner. He is LSU's history professor, and he's a wonderful man to talk to. He is full of so much information. It's amazing that you're able to keep it all up there in that brain. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Joyner.
Happy to be here, Brian.
All right, so let's get to it then. We're talking Civil Rights Trail, we're talking Civil War and LiDAR. What have you got for us today?
Well, we're working on a really large Civil Rights Trail project that is, my students love it. I love working with it, and we're using technology to be able to uncover a lot of issues in the past. One of them is, where did activists live? Where did meetings take place? How can you find something that is long gone because the city has lost so much of its past?
Right.
We tear down buildings too quickly.
The buildings, and of course everything weathers all the time in areas that aren't
Yeah.
full of buildings, that it's just
Yep.
land, somebody's mowed or plowed through it. And
Or torn down whole blocks.
Yeah.
Progress happens, but
But there's
we've got to save what we can.
Yep, but there's still parts of Shreveport though where there were cannon emplacements, and
Yes.
those areas there's still some of that out there. They've been replaced now, of course, but with time. But you can still see where some of that stuff is still with LiDAR. Tell us, for folks who have not heard of LiDAR, what is it?
Well, I like to tell my students that LiDAR is half science and half magic.
Yeah.
So here's the magic part of it. You can use LiDAR to look at the ground. It shoots right through buildings like they don't exist. It shoots through vegetation, so the trees are all gone. But the two things that LiDAR has trouble with is dirt, ground, and water.
Dirt, ground, and water.
That's about it. So if you want to pull up one of the LiDAR images, the one that
Maybe the main one, the one I guess that shows just LiDAR, just raw LiDAR by itself. That's a pretty good one.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, the other ones though, the one that's kind of zoomed out a little bit more. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Tell
All
us
right,
about that.
so
What are we looking at here?
this is a LiDAR map, basically of the Highland and Stoner Hill neighborhoods in Shreveport.
Okay.
And the green map itself, the lowest levels are blue green, and then the warmer colors, yellow and orange at the upper left are hills. If you look on the left hand side of it, you'll see the dirt embankments for I-49.
Yeah, I see that.
That diagonal looking bow is Fairfield Avenue. At the top going across is Stoner Avenue. And then on the right side, you're looking at the old Red River that goes around Anderson Island. And then that straight line that goes from the top of the screen to the bottom is Uri Drive. So in Highland, we've got all of these wonderful houses on that are the lots are elevated, and so the streets are incised, and you can see that.
Yes, you
But
can.
you can't see the buildings on it. So superimposed all of these rectangles, these are houses that come from the Sanborn fire insurance maps, that in this case it's from 1935.
1930. So you can see remnants of 1935 right there.
It's every building,
Hmm.
down to small garages and outbuildings of all kinds. Yellow is are shows structures that were made of wood. Pink is brick.
Okay.
Deep red, like at the bottom center, you can see a couple of large buildings. Those are composites, red brick and stone. So with this, we can come in and we can see uh, basically how the city was built. We have all of these maps going back to 1885 through 1961. So I can look at down to a city block, even down to a house lot. I can look and see when something was built within reasonable, time constraints based on when the Sanborn folks came. They mapped every village, town, and city in the United States uh, between 1867 and 19, roughly mid 60s. And so we have many visits from them. So 1885 will show us, for example, how the city looked during the yellow fever epidemic in 1873. In 1896, 1899, we can show the progress that the city was making, growing to the south. 1909, you get a real good sense of right before World War One, what was happening in 1935, which was very, very robust. Um, how the city looked during the Great Depression, and then the last time they were here in 1961, you can see how the city was looking right as I-20 was being built. So, if we're looking at historic structures, perhaps it's a building that is up for National Register of Historic Places
Hmm.
inclusion, then we can we can see if the building was what's called an infill, or did it exist then?
So basically, thanks to LiDAR, you can see where buildings were
Mhm.
and what possibly even what year they were had been constructed based on
That's
the
right.
LiDAR and the imagery and the height of the well, of course the colors of the LiDAR itself,
Yep,
which is indicative of the height or the lack thereof height of that given area.
that's right.
Okay.
And if it's something that was much older, for example, during the Civil War, we can look at things to see where were defenses, where did the Confederates build forts, how were they connected, and we've got the Confederate defense map from 1864. So we've rebuilt all the Confederate defenses. Now that's important because if we're doing an archaeological survey to see, where things are, how they were set up, um, how extensive were they? If we do an archaeological investigation of an area, we want to see what's happening. And in the case of buildings that are long gone, what do we need to look at? We did a small investigation in the back and side yards of Old Galilee Baptist Church, which is going to be turned into a museum. There were houses around it. We wanted to see if there was any remnants of that occupation. It's fun stuff.
Yeah,
Students love it.
it really is. I'm looking at that first map, the one with the buildings. I'm looking at that
Yes.
one right now. Zoe had the other one pulled up a little earlier. But this is the one with the buildings, and
Mhm.
essentially, folks, what he's talking about a moment ago is on top of the building you have the pink, and the pink is where uh, each each home would have been during that
Right.
time.
These are businesses downtown. This is Shreveport in 1909, a portion of downtown along Texas Avenue. And the maps are just, wonderful things. So yellow indicates buildings that were made of wood. Pink is shows buildings, in this case, stores. along Texas Street, and then the aerial photograph under it is current. And let's say a building is collapses, or it's torn down for whatever reason. This is in a National Register district, so you have to do an investigation of every place where there's going to be something built.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and so
And in those areas, so if we're looking for the essentially like where there was troop movement and where the I guess the barriers would have been built for the
yeah, of
Civil War. What's the best map that we can look at to see this on? Is it going to be the
let's go to the one that has downtown with LiDAR under it as opposed to the aerial photograph.
okay, the downtown? All right.
So not only troop movements, but occupation. Where did people live? How did they, how did they live? We when we do an investigation of a specific site, uh, you have what's left is called material culture. For example, we did an investigation at the house site of a lady named Amanda Clark, who was the first African American realtor in Shreveport, and her land became uh, a whole portion of Austin Place, where the Logan Mansion is, basically from Texas Avenue over toward Oakland Cemetery. She's buried in Oakland Cemetery. And so we wanted to look at her yard. And back before there was municipal garbage pickup, people uh, dumped their trash either in burn piles in the backyard or an old cistern that they didn't use. And so we were able to find what was her daily life. She lived very well. We found an ink bottle that was made in Scotland. We found some of her broken
Oh,
china. We
wow.
found some of her silverware, and she was, she lived pretty well for uh, uh, what you might think of as a woman of some means. Um, as a developer, she was born a slave. She was manumitted, freed before the war. Her son became the first uh, black member of the Shreveport Medical Society. He was a doctor. He worked with Dr. T.E. Shumpert after Dr. Shumpert
Ah,
left the charity hospital
and we know
to,
that name.
oh, yeah, after Shumpert left to form his own clinic. Then her son, Alphonse Dickerson Smith, led the charity hospital, the colored wing.
Okay.
So, we can get all kinds of information. We also did one before Millennium Studios was created of the most famous of the Shreveport madams was Annie McCune, and we were able to find her house. We worked in her backyard and found just all kinds of stuff. Uh, it just these people live pretty well. You might think that, well, okay, it's the 1800s, very early 1900s. They what are you going to find? We find lots of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, folks did live pretty well back then. Of course, the price of things wasn't nearly as much as it is now,
Oh
but at the
no.
same time, the dollar could carry you pretty far as well.
I like to use as an example what was the cost of a loaf of bread in any particular year?
Back
Because
then, right
bread's
now,
a staple. Yeah. Mhm.
right now,
And,
probably about
and
five, $6. Back then, a penny.
yeah, yeah, or maybe a dime, maybe a
Yeah.
nickel. Uh, so we go back, we look at newspapers, and we look for the ads for merchants that sold bread. So then you can get the cost of a loaf of bread. Or if you want to use flour or some commodity that we still have today that works exactly the same way, right? So you look at the buying power of a loaf of bread, and then you look at a loaf of bread today, and it's very simple math. You can see that things were pretty dear then, you know, comparatively, but what
Right.
the cost is today is going to be a lot different.
And real quick here, as we're starting to wrap up, unfortunately, because I could just listen to you for hours. I love talking to you, Dr. Joyner. We talk about Uri and it being a swamp and part of the red, and now it's it still floods like it's trying to be taken back over by the red and such, because, and of
True.
course the shopping center on Uri and it losing a part of its building because of all the debris that Colonel Shreve didn't remove way back then. It's all really very fascinating, especially when you look at that LiDAR and you can just look at history without digging it up at first, and then later on go back and look at, dig where you need to, and not kind of have to guess
That's the key.
thanks to LiDAR.
Don't destroy it.
Yep.
You know, think of it as are you going to use a cannon to find something, or are you going to use like a target pistol? You know, aim very, very close. You know, it's very much like a doctor, first do no
Right.
harm.
Surgical precision.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, before we wrap up here, tell us, Dr. Joyner, as y'all continue to work on these projects, and again, Dr. Joyner is a history of professor over there at LSUS. And as you're working on these LiDAR projects, tell us, kind of just sum up for us here, how much have y'all been able to discover about our area, and what's probably the most significant finds that y'all have been able to discover just by looking at the LiDAR?
Well, great question,
I mean,
Brian.
I'm sure there's just so much. I know you said you've been able to find the defensive walls.
Oh, we found the defensive walls. We found the remnants of the forts, the Confederate engineering project. We found, I, I think my favorite is south of town, at the port property. We found an intact Confederate fort where the battle for Shreveport would have been fought if the Union Army and Navy had come up, and being able to recreate how they set up the plan for this battle. It is an almost exact copy of what Andrew Jackson had at the Battle of New Orleans.
And so,
Because
when did y'all discover this?
about 15 years ago,
Okay, that's incredible. And so you're able to see all that, and you can see some of the old roads too. What is it?
all the old roads,
What's that?
all of the old roads.
Yeah, all the old roads.
Because you know, when you have wagons moving along a dirt trace, okay,
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
they're heavy and they wear down the ground. And so we've been able to, using 19th century maps going back to the 1820s and then forward, we've been able to find the original traces that today are the same highways, Highway 80, Highway 79, particularly, um, going up from Shreveport toward, really Homer and then up to El Dorado. Those original roads were later became highways.
Right. And
Indian
still have the same
traces.
potholes in some instances too.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that's pretty neat about it is we can see if a road was made and was realigned, sometimes the original traces are there, and we can go out and find those original traces.
Okay, and Dr. Joyner, as we get ready to jump off here, what if somebody wants to contact you and they want to learn more about LiDAR and the projects you're doing? What can they do?
Just send me an email at gary.joyner@lsus.edu, and you can come up and we'll make some time for you, look at our lab and see what we're doing.
All right, thank you very much today, Dr. Joyner, professor of of history over there at LSUS here in the Shreveport area. Good day to you, and we'll talk to you again here real soon. Been talking to LiDAR today and how fascinating it is at fine-tuning an archaeological dig. Instead of just digging all over the place with LiDAR, you can fine-tune things and see the past without even having to dig. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here as always.
Absolutely, and we're glad to have you anytime, by the way. And that's it for another edition of Barksdale Bubble. We will see you next time.